Here is nothing but thought construction and name. You seek in vain for individual signs. The Skandhas are like a hairnet, wherein discrimination goes on. So here is nothing but thought construction and name. This is actually what science tells us. Science tells us that we can only ever know a model of how things are. We have absolutely no way of knowing how well that model relates to reality. We judge the success of a model by being able to make certain predictions on the basis of it and seeing whether these predictions come true. But a model is like a map, and a map can never be the terrain. So we should never confuse the two. But this is what we do. We get people, especially some people who consider themselves enlightened thinkers, perhaps they're proud atheists. And science is the way forward. It's the way forward with a model. It's the way forward with a map. And that map's got its uses, there's no doubting that. But it's not reality. And unfortunately, those that swear by this map, even if they acknowledge that it is only a map or a model, they'll tell you it's not possible to know reality. They'll cling to their map as the best you can get, the best you can do. The map is thought constructions and names. You come up with an idea, you put a name to it. Gravity, gravity. That's a thought construction. Put a name to it. It enables us to express certain ideas. But nobody knows what the reality of gravity is. All you get are theories. That's all you can ever get. Electricity. Electricity. What's electricity? You'll get some ad hoc definitions, but nobody really knows. It's a thought construction with a name. And you'll say, well, but that thought construction refers to very real phenomena. But all these phenomena are also thought constructions. Let's take something a bit more concrete. I hold this up and you immediately say, mouse, mouse. You'll be familiar with this object, this particular form, this particular cable, which you know will be connected to a computer. But let's say you've never seen a computer before and you just had this thing. What would it mean to you? Well, you might like the aesthetics of it. You might like the colour of it, the texture of it. You might appreciate it as an objet d'art. But basically your thought construction would be quite different. And if somebody told you it was a mouse, you'd think there's something a bit strange about that person. So the reality of this object depends on our thought construction. We see it in functional terms. This is something for navigating around a computer screen. By itself it's completely useless. We're not particularly interested in its colour. We're only interested in its shape in as much as it gives us ease of use in moving around the computer screen. But what's its reality? There's texture, temperature, hardness, colour. The science would tell you that all these are thought constructions. The scientist will tell you that colour is a subjective experience. There is no blueness in the world. Its blueness is a subjective experience constructed by the mind. This is what science will tell us. The reality of blueness is at a particular wavelength of light. That's what's real, the frequency of that particular wavelength of light. That's reality, isn't it? Well, how abstract is that? How divorced is that from our experience? In fact, science will tell you that what is real is mathematics. That's what reality is. Science endeavours to express all its truths in terms of mathematics. That's reality. So the reality which the scientists say is real, the reality which we say is real, is nothing but thought constructions and names. We come up with something. It could be an idea, it could be a discrimination we make in the field of experience or within our senses. We might hear a sound and I'll say, that's a seagull. No seagull here. There's a thought construction in the name. That's all that's happened. That's all that there is here. But I will call it a seagull. So this is what we're doing all the time. This is the discriminating mind, or just our mind. It's the mind that believes that its model is reality. And we shouldn't dismiss the model. We use the model, we make use of it, but we're interested in reality. So we have to properly appreciate this distinction then. This distinction between the map and the terrain. We've nothing against the map, but we want to experience the terrain. You seek in vain for individual signs. So what this is saying is, we're looking for something which we can say is real. Something in our conventional experience which we can say is real. So is this mouse real? Well, we can see how the very word mouse is a thought construction. Well, that's the name. But what it's referring to is an assemblage of things which have been put together to perform a particular function. Again, we only relate to this in terms of its function. We can discriminate and label it amongst what we might call physical objects as opposed to imaginary objects. And we maybe will give this more reality because it's physical rather than imaginary. This is a very important discrimination that we make. But then, is it more real than a song? Is it more real than anger? Is it more real than communism? So let's not go along with that prejudice about physical reality somehow being more real. The reality we truly subscribe to is not a physical one. So you seek in vain for individual signs, and the individual signs that the Buddhists came up with were the Skandhas. And this is actually quite a useful system. The Buddha taught this system. But as he said back in verse 21 in video 22, teaching is an expedient. He's not teaching external signs. So the Skandhas is a way of looking at conventional reality, which is supposed to dismantle it, not become a substitute conventional reality. The Skandhas is actually quite useful if you start thinking of it in terms of what's real. It just describes a process. The Skandhas just describe a process. The process of particular form attracting the attention. There are feelings associated with that, and these feelings are dependent on our own disposition. We would describe it then as a perception perception which has reality. That's the Skandhas, that's the process of the Skandhas. But when you start saying that everything is made up of these 5 Skandhas, they're actually called heaps or aggregates, and that's what's real, then you've missed the point. They become like a hairnet wherein discrimination goes on. This hairnet simile might seem a bit odd, but the way I see it, it's a bit like what was said in verse 8. Like the dim-eyed ones perceive things in the darkness. In ancient times it was dark a lot of the time. You didn't have electricity. So you were wandering around in the dark a lot, peering into darkness. And when you do that, you get this mottled picture as you try to make sense of things. This is like a hairnet. You're trying to make connections between things in the darkness. So that's the discriminating mind at work. This is cognition. Another word for discrimination is cognition. It's that whereby we cognize something. But the whole basis of cognition is fundamentally flawed in terms of allowing us access to reality. So we dismantle not the model itself, but our belief that the model is reality. Science would agree with us here. The model is not reality. We have an option that science does not have, and that option is this awareness which is happening right now, right here.